This week, I realized there is a whole difference between watching someone work and realizing they have mastered their art, perfected their craft. Hi, I am Tammy. If you're new here, welcome. This channel is basically me documenting what it looks like to learn ranch life in real time and stewardship of our family land. If you have been following along already, thank you so much for being here. I think for most of my life, I saw ranching as mostly labor. Hard, sweaty work, long, dusty days, constant, necessary movements. But the more time I spend around ranching now, I'm realizing there are systems behind everything. Just like my live event photography world, systems for everything. Timing, technique, efficiency, movement, and patterns, even down to the way someone uses a tractor bucket. At the end of last week, John had already baled one of the hay fields and moved all the hay off of it. I was off somewhere else doing something, so I didn't get to see this or help with any of this. Then, after he was done getting all the hay off the field, he ordered compost to go back and spread over the field. And I had never really seen that process before. That's something that I am not aware that my grandfather or my father did in their farming and ranching practices. So I went and spent a few hours watching him work. And honestly, there is one thing that stood out to me most so clearly: the way he uses the front end loader bucket. It sounds silly unless you've seen it, live in person, but his precision is incredible. Smooth, controlled, and intentional. The same way I described him using the hay fork in the last episode. And meanwhile, I operate equipment like it's my first time, every time. But I actually learned something years ago in photography. Well, actually a few things, but this is the thing I want to tell you about. It's called the 4 stages of competence. And honestly, I think about it a lot now while I'm learning ranching. The first stage is called unconscious incompetence, which basically means you don't know enough yet to even understand how much you don't know. Call it blissful ignorance. Then eventually you move into conscious incompetence, where you finally realize, oh wow, there is a whole universe of stuff I don't understand yet. And honestly, I think in ranching, I'm probably bouncing between stages 1 and 2, depending on the topic. Gardening, maybe just barely beginning to enter stage 3. Heavy equipment, absolutely not. I don't even know if I'm in stage 1 yet. But John, he is very clearly level 4. Which is unconscious competence. This is the level where your body just knows what to do. If John were an Olympic athlete, driving tractors, in that sport, if John were an Olympic athlete and his sport was heavy equipment operation, he'd be a multiple gold medalist. Muscle memory, precision, mastery. Level 4 mastery. And I think that's why I like watching him work and why it fascinates me so much now. It's also the same way I used to watch Dad work when I was a little girl. So that probably also helps me enjoy it. Also, this week, I learned that cutting and shredding are apparently not the same thing, which I had absolutely no idea about. I know those are two different words with two different definitions, but I thought in farming, they kind of just meant the same thing. I thought they were interchangeable, if you will. So again, I had absolutely no idea that they were different. And that pretty much sums up my whole experience around here lately. The deeper I get into this world, the more I realize how much I don't know yet, which I guess means I am moving into stage 2, conscious incompetence. But stage 2 also means progression. Every morning on the ranch starts before the sun even rises. And one morning this week, John started washing out the manure spreader or the compost spreader. I'm still learning what to call all this stuff. And with heavy equipment, maintenance is probably one of the biggest challenges. So preventive maintenance is extremely important. The equipment has to be operable when you need it. It has to be reliable when you need it. So a lot of the equipment is just basically in a constant state of preventive maintenance. As soon as something gets back to the shop yard, it's usually getting cleaned up, then inspected for any mechanical issues or anything else that might need attention. And honestly, there's another thing I'm starting to notice more now. A huge amount of ranching just seems to be keeping your equipment alive. Keeping the equipment alive. Rosalio also found a tiny baby kitten this week. Its eyes aren't even open yet. And now he's feeding it with a syringe, and I am trying to help when I can, which is kind of funny because one minute we're talking pivots and compost spreaders, and the next minute we are trying to keep a baby kitten alive. The garden. Honestly, this week finally felt rewarding in the garden. I have now harvested 4 cucumbers in total. That's 56 days after planting. And I know that probably doesn't sound like much, but when you planted something and you started it from seed and you watched it almost every day, it's actually producing. It's getting me super, super excited for my fall garden because I'm already making ridiculous elaborate plans for a much bigger garden this fall. I want to try growing things I've honestly never really seen grown successfully in South Texas before. I want to try things like lettuce, cabbage, broccoli, and cauliflower, which may end up being a terrible idea, but I'm going to find out. The corn is looking really good too. It's about 3 feet tall now. And I think I can see, 6 or 8 baby ears of corn starting to form. Although I'm still not super optimistic about the actual ears producing very well. Apparently, planting corn in a single row is not the best practice, which I learned after I had planted my corn in a single row. That just feels very on brand for me. The onions are also doing really well. I would say they're about 6 or 7 inches tall. The tomato plants, including the ones I thought I murdered when I transplanted them, actually look surprisingly good now. The wilted leaves from that day are dead, but overall, the plants recovered way better than I expected. I didn't expect them to be alive a week after I transplanted them. None of the transplanted tomato plants are flowering yet, but the ones that were not moved have a lot of flowers on them, which means a lot of tomatoes. I also noticed deer tracks running through the garden a week or two ago, and I hadn't really seen much damage yet, but I figured I probably shouldn't wait until the deer officially RSVP themselves to dinner. So I decided to try a really inexpensive deer fence idea that I've seen on the internet. So I drove some 48-inch wooden stakes into the ground, and then I ran 2 lines of fishing line around the perimeter of the garden. One line up about 12 to 18 inches off the ground, and then the other line I ran about 36 inches high. The theory is deer do not like running into or touching things that they cannot see. So when they brush up against this fishing line that they cannot see, they back up and they don't go through it because they don't understand what they're experiencing, and it scares them. So far, I haven't seen any more deer tracks inside the garden. So at this point, I'm cautiously calling it a success, but we'll see how confident I still feel about that by the end of summer. And I'm curious, for those of y'all who also garden, how would you handle succession planting? Which I have learned that's the term you call this. Would you direct sow everything into the ground, or would you start them in trays like I'm trying now? Because I'm definitely learning as I go here. I decided this week to do another succession planting. More sweet corn, some Roma tomatoes, some summer squash, and I had also planned to plant jalapenos because the Blaylocks love spicy food so much. But I lost the packet of seeds somewhere before I could get them sowed. But this time, instead of planting all my seeds directly into the garden, I decided to buy some little starter trays, and I'm only going to plant slightly more seeds than I think I'll actually need this time. Because last time I planted the entire seed packet because I was being lazy, and that probably wasn't the most strategic move to do, especially like for my tomatoes and onions, where they're just really thick right now. And I did thin out the tomatoes, but I'm just gonna let the green onions go as is and see what happens. I also picked up some hand tools this week and some seed starting soil. And honestly, this whole process has been really fun. I also trellised the cucumbers this week using cattle panels and T-posts. They actually already look happier. I bought some, I think they're 6-foot bamboo poles and vegetable clips because I'm gonna try staking the tomato plants using the bamboo stakes rather than traditional wire cages. The theory here is for the cucumbers and the tomatoes that if the leaves stay off the ground and out of the soil and they have a really good airflow at the base of the plant where it goes into the ground, that there is way less chance for disease. The whole garden is just becoming a big, giant science experiment for me. I also spent some time this week working on my dad's wood barn to organize it. It's hard to even explain how full it is. There are long boards, there are short boards, there are 2x4s, there are 2x6s, there are 2x12s, there are old windows, there are doors, there is siding, there is plywood, there is fluorescent lights. There is just decades worth of things that have been saved in this wood barn because Dad thought that they might someday be useful. And they are. But it had just gotten so packed that it was hard to even walk through. So I have started to reorganize everything. I secretly enjoy these kinds of projects. There is just something kind of satisfying about it. Because every time I do clean or organize one of these spaces, I feel like I start to understand the property a little better. Or at the very least, I know or I learn where something is when I need to make a repair, and then I don't have to, spend hours looking for the thing that I need to make the repair. John also started trenching to run water to his third and fourth pivot systems this past week. I didn't get to watch a ton of that progress because I was busy with everything else. But it's still exciting seeing all these systems slowly come together. One quick update: there won't be episode 12 next week. I have a really, really short week at the ranch. So episode 12 will premiere on May 31st because I'll be wearing my photographer hat for most of next week. And honestly, I just won't have enough time to make an episode. So we will pick back up again on May 31st. This life isn't just about working hard. It's about learning systems. It's about learning timing and patterns, and it's learning why things are done the way they are. And the more I notice, the more interesting all of this becomes. If you're following along why I figure all of this out, I would really appreciate your support. You can subscribe, like, comment, share, follow along. Tell all the people at the office about this. I'm Tammy and I'm still learning, but I'm finally starting to understand a few things around here. Not many though, just a few. All right.